but,
Okay.
and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, I've just talked a little bit about taxes. Another issue that I believe is an issue,
I'll be very short.
okay, is the issues that have to do with immigration.
Yeah.
Immigration having to do with, I can start, if I cite a couple of these things, it's just going to take
just list
But
them.
immigration having to do with, here are a group of people, God love them, that are illegally here, and now there's the move and is going on to educate these people in their own language, and the taxpayers pay for it. I have a problem with that.
What else?
I just came from a place, okay, that's that issue with immigration.
Right.
And another issue is the healthcare issues having to do with immigration.
Okay.
Given the amount of people that had were birthed in the state of Texas last year, 58% were Medicaid babies. How can you explain that? And we can't even document where they came from. I mean, that is a problem for me. I think that's worthy of looking at. When it does come to the budget, last year, according to the Wall Street Journal, last year the budget, we spent a 26% increase in our budget, over our budget, than what we had done the previous year. 26%, I mean, that's mind-boggling. And they even said that that was the largest amount of money that a state in the United States, ever in the history of the states, has ever increased in 1 year. I've not attacked this close enough to really see where all this stuff is going and what's taking place, but I do know that with this influx of people that are coming into this state, with the influx of people coming into the Woodlands and surrounding area, I believe with windfalls like Exxon coming in, the tax burden, the tax level that will come from that group over there, as it comes in, we have such an unbelievable amount of cash. We just decide if we've got the cash, we just need to spend more money. I operated car dealerships. When we had the cash, and we rat-holed that cash. We saved if we had the extra cash. But in our situation, what they'll do is they'll just continue to spend it. Government's going to continue to get bigger as they continue to spend on more and more items. And they will do it under the guise of we're going to spend this today because these are pre-inflation dollars. And it makes sense that although we have it down a 6 or 8 year plan down the road, let's don't wait. Let's just do it right now. My thinking is, hey, wait a second. I want some of that money back. I want that to go back towards my property. Why has the last 2 years my property taxes gone up $1,000 a year or thereabouts?
Right.
See, so
Larry.
On your questionnaire, your occupation, you say you're a retired pastor of Pathfinders Fellowship.
I'm not a retired pastor.
I'm
I
sorry?
was
Retired comma pastor.
I retired from the car business
Okay.
after 26 years, and then we had started. Just so y'all know, we started a Bible study in the summer of 2012. Never intended it to be a church. I've been a pastor of a church many years ago, and you know, it just kind of rocked right along. And then come January, people were moving that direction. People were given to it as if it was a church. And so what we did was decided to start a church. And Keough Ministries became, in the legal name, Keough Ministries, doing business as Pathfinders Fellowship. The name's soon to be changed. We have recently got the approval for it to the Woodlands Bible Church.
And do you give your members a manufacturer warranty?
Yeah. But we, it's
No, that's issued by the manufacturer.
yeah. But so I was in business for those years, and then when I had the opportunity, my wife and I play pretty good offense. My wife plays great defense, and so we were able to posture ourselves financially to be able to actually really do this. And I had a desire to retire when I was 55. I ended up retiring when I was 60. Matter of fact, I turned my notice in the day that I turned 60, and down at Northside Lexus. And in doing that, we decided that we were going to go full-time with the church, and sure enough we did. This month is the first month we've ever taken any income from any of the ministry we've done all these years in the Woodlands.
Okay.
So, yeah, so go ahead.
Along
That's
that,
the kind of
that
history.
line, how will you continue to keep the growth going in your church when you're in Austin?
It's a great question. When I didn't want to do this, or when I thought about doing this, the first thing I did is I went to the elders. I have 4 elders. These guys are all well educated, have done very well, and good men. One of them is an ex-FBI, another one's an ex-school teacher, who, by the way, the ex-FBI guy was he is my campaign chairman, and he was involved in political corruption, if you can believe that. His name is Ron Stern. Anyway, Ron Stern is one of my elders. Larry Cullen is a retired school teacher. Keith Simpson is a financial planner. And my other guy just comes and does what he does. Anyway, I have 4 elders, and they're all really great guys. Randy Miller, who is also he buys and sells houses, and his wife works for Rights Printing. Anyway, these guys came to me and said they felt like this was, as we had each Sunday, not every Sunday, but I will always bring up topics that people are afraid about, or things that they're thinking about during the week, and I will address those from what I believe is a biblical perspective, and give them hope, as opposed to just being silent about this. Well, so when this opportunity came up and I presented to the elders, they unanimously said, we need to do this. Well, then in doing that, I kind of went backwards and forwards in talking to my family. My wife was very encouraging to me about it. My son was not so, but he wasn't denying it. And the church, we chatted about it a little bit, and 2 weeks ago, I basically decided I can't do this. I just got so much going on. But I listened to Rafael Cruz. I spent some time listening to him. Larry Cullen, the retired history school teacher, who's a strong conservative, called me the day before that event and pleaded with me to change my mind. That we believe that this is an opportunity for a real live pastor with a solid education, with a solid business background, to have an impact on the churches and other pastors. We're sending people off on mission trips all over the world. And we've got issues right here, and the people don't even know about it. And we're fixing to get trumped again if we don't pay attention to what's going on with voting. So the church, as I announced this again this last week, and I have a bunch of, I forgot the CDs. I wanted you guys to hear this. So you could take it. We kind of honed it down. It's 32 minutes. And it was where I believed that a pastor's position ought to be, and that he ought to have a position in terms of talking to his people about issues that are important in the culture, of which I do. And I announced it at the end that I decided to run for this position, and I got a standing ovation. And it was a long standing ovation. My son cut a bunch of the clapping out of the CD. I said, Josh, why'd you do that, man? We need to hear that. Well, we took that out, but I have to tell you, I was so well received, it was unbelievable. And they want to help, they want to walk. I was cautioned by Ron, who is my campaign chairman, to be extremely careful about a coincidence of funds being commingled in any form or fashion. And we've come up with a little plan. Luke Macias is my consultant. We talked with that extensively today with him about that, and making sure that we stay above board and how our funding takes place. And but the church, being excited as they are about it, we're looking at it as an opportunity for growth. As a matter of fact, we are in the process. We're getting ready to sign an agreement with the Church Project. It's a group that grew. It's a 13,000 square foot facility next to Wright Printing, 1,000 yards from Market Square. And we've made an agreement. We put the deposit down on it, and we're going to use that. And we'll have the opportunity to move into that in the beginning of January. And this is we can use that for all kinds of things where there is not going to be any type of conflict of interest. We are putting in a wheelchair ramp on the stage that we're building.
How do you see religion and politics? How do they mix?
And 2 things I never talk about is politics or religion. This is what I believe. I believe that my world and life view is that I cannot bifurcate my world and life view. I cannot divide the sacred from the secular. All of life is sacred. All truth is God's truth. All truth finds its place in the plan and purpose of God. All truth. The reason that man knows what he knows is because by common grace, God has allowed him to know what he knows about life and about stuff. Whether it's mathematics, whether it's about transportation, whether it's about political theory, whatever the case is. If it's truth, it's God's truth. Now, that being said, I believe that that is what drives me and drives my family, and that's what drives the people around me. That's what I want to drive the people in my church. As a Christian, I have a responsibility to be the salt of the earth. That means you won't see me standing up in Congress waving a Bible, but you will see me standing for life. Where do I get that from? Did that just come out of the air? I'll tell you where that came from for me. That came from Psalm 139, where it's as clear as can be. Where God says through the psalmist that my substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, and in your book all my rumors were written before they were even formed. Life begins at conception, already planned in the mind and heart of God when we're born. It is a travesty. It's unbelievable to me, and I'm guilty. I'm so guilty of apathy towards unborn. We all are. How could this happen? Almost 60 million babies, and yet we have a population growth. Somebody explain that to me.
Immigration.
Exactly.
Service.
That's what's taking place. And now we're allowing this influx of an opening up of our borders, and it's like everybody says that we got to shut our borders. We got to shut our borders. Let's shut the borders. They don't really mean it. They do not really mean it. If they did, we could do it. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Anyway, I don't think you can divide the two.
You know, one of the things that creates cultural and physical problems in government at large, the nation and the state too, is the fact that we try to run about a half a dozen parallel governments in every language under the sun. So given the ethnic proportions in Texas, is there a way, or what would be the way that we could somehow get to an English-only type of government?
I think there's only one way. And I think that we need to vote as a state that regardless of what the rest of the country does, the language of Texas is English, period. And begin to teach and do whatever in English. If there are people who are here that can't speak English, they need to speak English. My mother was Polish. She was first generation Polish. She went to the public school system. In the public school system, they taught her in English how to speak English. Her home was Polish. When I was raised, my mother wanted to teach me Polish. My father said, no, we need to make sure he understands and can articulate and speak English properly. He focused on English. This whole idea of language, borders, and culture, you sacrifice those three, we're lost. Diversity does not bring about growth. It does not bring about a healthy environment. Diversity causes diversity. I loved my company. I loved my company in Northside Lexus. They were so good to me, the Westlex company. They were so good to me for so many years. But it used to grieve me when we had these diversity classes, and how and then they would have special Spanish classes for the guys who couldn't speak English. And here I'm trying to tell them to move cars from here to there, and they say yes, 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 and I'm pointing over here, and they walk off over here. If everybody gets together and we push this and make this our language, it'll happen. It has been historically. But if people are coming across the borders so fast, and we're doing what we do, and what we do in business and the rest, we find ourselves just going, well, you know, we got a problem here, let's just go ahead and deal with it, and we're going to deal with it by just, you know, possibly amnesty for all those who are here. But before we can do this, we need to close the borders, but the borders don't get closed, and we institute things like the DREAM Act and the rest. I mean, it's remarkable. It's almost as if there's some type of an agenda that we kind of all know deep down inside, but we are afraid to admit to, and then nobody will come out and actually say. Whatever that is, I'm just not quite sure, and I'm not going to say, but it seems like there is.
James?
Well, something to ask you about immigration or education. I think I'm going to ask you about education. Everybody seems to love to spend money on education at the state level. And I understand there's a constitutional imperative there, although it doesn't say anything about an expensive education. But, and Barbara Cargill talked about that. So my question is, just talk about 1st to 12th grade, not college or anything after that, just 1st to 12th grade. Currently, 50 cents of every dollar for public schools, only 50 cents of it goes to the teachers in the classroom. So my question is, do we as a state need to spend, not talking about counties, but as a state, at the state level where you'll be, do we need to spend more money on 1st to 12 education? If yes, how much and why? If no, how much can it be cut and why?
I'm not prepared to answer that question in terms of how much it can be cut. I am in favor, however, of not raising it anymore. How much money are we spending on education? How much have we increased the spending on education? And where are we in Texas? What? Still 35 in scores or whatever? I mean, do we really believe that spending more money on education is going to actually help our students? I don't believe that for a minute. I believe that I think there are
But
some...
it helps the teachers, and they surely deserve gobs of more money.
Here's how I look at teaching.
That's what they'll be telling you.
Oh, I understand.
Not to mention the superintendents, the administrative staff.
For sure. It's as big business as anything else, and I understand that. And they will also say, look, this is our greatest resource, and we should spend as much money as we can to get the quality teachers that we can. I will tell you, my experience in the public school system in the Woodlands and surrounding area was awesome.
Was that CISD?
Yes, Conway
Okay.
School District. And I had 2 of my 4 children graduated from the Woodlands High School. And one of them went to the middle school, and I have to tell you, I was so pleased. I had teachers call me at my house when my son was acting up. It was amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And but here's the deal: more dollars thrown at teachers and more dollars thrown at this whole process is not going to help us. The issue is how we are teaching our students. A says a as an apple, B says ba, C says ca as in cat, D says duh, duh, duh. That is basic phonics type learning. I was a headmaster of a Christian school years ago. When I graduated at Grace Theological Seminary Association of
Do you
Christian
think they
Schools.
should be getting state money the same as a public school voucher or something like that?
Christian schools?
Sure.
No, I don't
Like
think.
charter schools do. Some of which are Christian, many of which are Muslim.
What I think is, I think that the taxes that people pay, whatever the proportion that is, for their children while they're in public school, if they pull them out of the public school, they ought to be able to get the deduction or the credit to go towards where they're putting their children. How that works out practically, I'm not sure. But I do believe there needs to be a tax advantage if they don't send them to the public school system. And there are those that would say, well, we have to keep the tax base in order to keep the public school going. Well, okay, the public school would be going if the public school was doing its job. And so the issue of where our students are ending up in the public school system with the amount of money that we're spending. I mean,
Well, around here, it would just mean less schools that we have to build.
Well, here's which is true. The issue in education for me all boils down to the quality of the teacher teaching a curriculum that is going to teach a student to think. Do you know that my son, God bless him, and even came up through the school, everything that he did was typed. Everything he does now is text. His handwriting is terrible. God love him, and he's very sharp, smart. We don't even teach basic skills anymore. We have calculators. We don't need the basic skills. See, these are all skills that everyone needs to know. They have to know it. It's just for the development of a person's analytical skills, for their ability to think and reason and to talk in language that makes sense. And what we have done is we've reduced all of this to taking away basic skills. In a curriculum that, say for instance, pushes phonics, in the school that I was headmaster of, We took a kindergarten age 4 student, kindergarten age 4, at the end of the school year, gave him a document that he had never seen and could read short vowel sentences. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That brought a round of applause. That's the kind of education that we need, and that's the kind of process we need to be doing, in my judgment.
Okay, one of the questions was what differentiates you from your opponents? You say, I'm the candidate of lower taxes. So distinguish your view on lower taxes from those of your opponent, Bruce Tuff. Same for I'm the candidate of fiscal responsibility. How does your position differ from that of Bruce Tuff? I'm the candidate for life. Is Bruce Tuff anti-life? Distinguish yourself.
Sure, I think that's a fair question. First of all, this is an open, there is no incumbent.
Correct.
And so I don't have any track record to follow Bruce on in terms of his view of life. But that doesn't make me not the candidate of pro-life, just because he maybe is or he isn't.
But the question is what differentiates you from your opponent? That was the question you were asked to answer.
And how are you different? Yeah. If you know.
Well, I do, but at this point, I'm not going to say. I will tell you though, that in terms of life, I am not in favor of partial birth abortion. I will tell you in terms of pro-life, I'm not in favor of abortion except for the sole possibility, which in most cases is hypothetical, where the death of the mother is challenged. It's a rare event when that happens. So let me just say that.
Okay.
So let me jump in now. Oh,
Go ahead.
so since you would be a state legislature and the state and the federal government interacts, and you would really need to know the Constitution, where their line, where their jurisdiction ends and the state begins. So, where is the separation of church and state in the Constitution?
I don't believe that there is a separation of church and state in the Constitution.
Okay.
I believe that go ahead.
So, when it comes to,
I thought you were going to ask him to elaborate on my questions. We haven't gotten answers yet.
oh, go ahead, jump back here.
The candidate of lower taxes.
Right, okay.
Compare yourself with
Okay,
your opponent.
here. All I know this, I've been living in Montgomery County, I've been living in the Woodlands since 1996. I've watched our population grow. I have watched our population increase exponentially. When I came here, it was about 48,000. It's supposed to be 125,000 at the end of February. Whether or not it gets there, I'm not sure. I know that my property taxes continue to go up.